area for OC. 11:57 to go, and Wilmington getting doubled up now. It is an 8-4 lead for the Crusaders. Wrights gets credit for the assist on that O'Callahan goal. Capital leads 8-4. And a false start called against Wilmington. Capital will get possession. Fuller will bring it across midfield to restart play. Wilmington starting to just run out of firepower. Capital scored 3 goals in 3 minutes now to start off the second quarter, and a lot of penalties helping out with that. Got to be more disciplined defensively. Simmons to now Noggle. And Capital continuing to work it around. I think our video is now live, so hopefully you guys can see what's going on down there. Working it around, Simmons. Simmons over to Noggle at the 35-yard line. Working it around, Capital still trying to find the best shot possible here. And a shot goes over the net. Rampy there to run it down. Capital turns it over now. Wilmington will bring it in, but we have a penalty, meanwhile, down there on the field now being enforced. So it looks like Trefether is the one called for the penalty. He'll come to the sideline now. And Wilmington just gets to bring the ball up for free now. So Wilmington's man-up unit gets to work as opposed to their man-down unit, which has been getting a lot of work. And they will work this thing around and continue to pass it around. Behind the net, Delaney has it. Delaney working it around, continuing this same, that would be counterclockwise motion. Delaney switching directions now to Jackson. Jackson to the top. A shot, no, excuse me, a fake shot, and they continue to pass it around. Now Jackson gets it behind the net again. Jackson has the umbrella kind of opening up here. Looking for their shot, a pass inside to Jackson, and it was tipped. Fortunately for Wilmington, that pass was tipped. Capital was trying to bring it into play, and Mack and one of the officials now debating. Now Capital's given credit for the possession. So Capital, and now they give it up again. Sorry, just so much confusion down there. The two officials continuing to switch their call back and forth. Mack looked like he was ready to bring it into play, and then he was whistled. So now Jackson will bring it in, and we have a conference between our three officials. So momentarily, it is Capital's defensive sequence here still, but we're trying to see if that's the case, and that will be the case. It was tipped. They stick with the official on the far sidelines call. 10:14 to go. Jackson playing it around now. Jackson over towards Jordan Lang. They give it back to Delaney now. Delaney works it around. Jackson all the way at the top of the field now. Quick to get there. And they pass it around some more to Matt Dugan now. Dugan towards Lang again. Lang scored the first goal for Wilmington. They really need one here. They're down 4. They had a man up and no longer do. Over to Jackson. And Jackson playing it down, and they'll just take some time off the clock again. Running out of their own time, really. Lang still has it. He carried it from the 30-yard line on the near side of the field all the way around that net to the 15 on that side of the field. Did not shoot. Played over towards Dugan now. Dugan has an assist. He works it around. Delaney behind the net. Has a man out in front of the net if he can get the pass to him. Oh, that was high and wide open. Then he takes a crazy shot that hits off the heel of an official and probably saved Wilmington's possession. Could see the shot clock come on here soon, as it's been a while since Wilmington has taken one. I guess you could count that last one a shot, but it was very wild. And now a pass deflected away. Unable to handle it was Dugan, and Davide steals it, and that's the man you want to bring it across midfield with. He is so quick. Davide passes it over Bonsignori in front to Kreitz. Oh, yeah. I thought Bonsignori was going to get a little greedy there for a second and go for a second goal, but he makes the smart pass. Gets it to Kreitz out in front, and Capital scores another. 9-4 they lead. Goodness gracious. So Bonsignori with a 2-point day now. He's playing some great lacrosse here tonight. 8:25 to go. Capital leads 9-4. And it's brought into the zone by Capital after they win the faceoff again. In terms of our statistics, starting to get a little bit more lopsided. 19 shots for Capital, just 11 for Wilmington. The biggest thing on there jumping out is the 13 faceoff wins compared to just 1. And Wilmington's 1 was because of a false start. 3 penalties for Wilmington as well. Capital's only had to clear it out of their zone twice. They're 2 for 2 in that department. 17 ground balls for the Crusaders, just 3 for Wilmington. Working it around now towards Walton. Walton with the pass towards Carson Paul. Paul, quickness. He's shown a lot of quickness here lately. Passes back to Walton, who's been quiet today. Walton behind the net. OC back in front, and Hess shoots it just wide. Collected by one of Wilmington's players, who then puts the lacrosse stick face down in the goal so that his goalkeeper Corbel can pick it up. And then, after doing that maneuver, he pushes a Capital player to the ground. I believe it was Rampy, and that's just an undisciplined play. As Austin Johnston just cost his team possession, Capital gets to keep it now. At the 7:03 mark. Rampy has it behind the net right now for the Crusaders. Rampy working it over to Carson Paul. Paul with a long pass over to Hess. Hess lowers his shoulder, just goes right towards the goal and made that look so easy. 2 goals today for Nick Hess now. He joins O'Callahan as the only multiple goal scorers from the Crusaders. And when they lead 10-4, Wilmington calls their first timeout. We have 6:39 to go till half, and the Quakers trying to find themselves a way to get back in this game. 5 unanswered goals here in the second quarter, and the Crusaders lead 10-4. score to pass along from the softball game. Game 2, Marietta 5, Capital 3. Unfortunately, the Crusaders cannot pull off the win there. They were down 3-1 and did make it a little bit closer, but couldn't finish it off. Good news to report from here, though, as it's 10-4. Crusaders out in front of the Quakers. Another face-off in which Capital has completely dominated. Bonsignori brings it across, and he'll get off, as well as Crossingham and Fuller for our next midfield unit. Some other games in action now in the OAC. For the women's lacrosse side of things, Capital out to a 4-1 lead on Wilmington very early in that contest. So congratulations to the Crusaders. I guess I shouldn't say congratulations. Too strong of a word, but hopefully they can keep it going there. Crossingham doing a phenomenal job keeping possession for the Crusaders after they score, and that's been a big part of this run here. Out in front and off the post. Oh, Callahan just couldn't find the twine. He found iron instead. Some men's lacrosse scores to pass along as Capital had something developing, but they're going to be called for a foul. And now they might be saying that, yes, that is correct. Wilmington will start with the ball now after that whistle. Ohio Northern and Otterbein, 5 minutes in, they have a 1-1 tie. And John Carroll out to an early 1-0 lead on Muskingum 10 minutes in. Those are men's scores, to not confuse you. A 10-4 game right now. Capital has scored 5 unanswered goals. They took a 5-4 lead into this quarter. So 5 in the first, 5 in the second, to give them that even 10. And let's see what the Crusaders have worked with defensively. And a shot saved by Palmby. A real routine save, really. Couple subs, and the Crusaders trying to work this thing across midfield, and Mack will play it to Davide. Davide has Simmons to his left. He goes that direction. Noggle now in the formation, and lastly, Tomsic coming onto the field now. And Capital goes to work with their second team midfield unit. Coach trying to find the right answers out there. Noggle has it. Noggle plays it around. Look at Simmons with the speed and the shot. Another one that rings off the iron. Noggle keeps it in play. And actually, I don't know how that's Capital's or how that's Wilmington's possession, as Noggle did a good job and let it go out of bounds because he thought Capital would keep it. And it turns out they won't. Wilmington has not scored in this quarter. The last goal came at the 2:17 mark of the first quarter, so they're closing in on a full 15 minutes without scoring. Just as I say that, they go for another shot and turn it over. And the Crusaders defense continuing the good work. .301 to go, and the Crusaders trying to take their largest lead of the game and make it even larger at this point. They lead 10-4 with 3 minutes to go. Paul to Nick Hess, and Nick Hess surveys his options as the top line unit gets back in there for the Crusaders. They've got quite a few goals again from players you would not expect. Bonsignori has one, Davide has one. And Jordan Fuller has one. And then in terms of your usual suspects, O'Callahan with 2, Hess with 2, Carson, Paul, and Walton each with 1. That's the scoring, as well as Ted Kreitz. Excuse me, he has 1 as well. Walton forces one, really. That was a tough shot. And he tried to underhand it in. Now O'Callahan takes it away from the goalkeeper, almost poked it into the goal. Instead, just gets the ball back and then beats the goal. And they're actually waving it off. They're waving the goal off as O'Callahan stepped in the box. So O'Callahan will not get credit for his goal. And we still have a 10-4 game. And they quickly waved that off. And Coach Olin can't believe it. Bonsignori playing good defense to take that away. Now pushes it across midfield, flips it forward, and Wilmington picks it out of the air. This is Jesse Berman now. His play is getting a little bit more exciting here. Up pace, and Davide called for pushing. Actually, might be a timeout as well. There is. Timeout called by Wilmington. A 10-4 lead as O'Callahan loses credit for his goal. You're listening to the Capital Sports Network. .137 to go until halftime. Capital leads 10-4. Wilmington with possession and trying to cut this deficit. They have not scored again since the first quarter. Towards the end of the first quarter, it's been over 15 minutes since they've scored. A long scoring drought. Lang taking his time with Dugan as the two continue to pass it back and forth here in seemingly no rush. Out in front. And still, there's a lot of action out in front, is what I should say. There's some screening from some players without the ball. But Dugan and Lang have just been sitting at the 30-yard line running this clock down. And I don't think Capital really cares that they're doing that. It's a 6-goal game. Wilmington really needs to pick the tempo up themselves. Capital content to let this half go with a 6-goal lead. Palmby with a nice save on a shot there from the corner by Alexander Gossard. Brought back into play by Jackson. And a whistle from our official saying that he needs to slow down. Worked around. Gossard has it. He plays it down now towards Matt Dugan. Over to Lang. Lang behind the net to Delaney. Back to Lang. Lang from a weird corner. And an easy save by Palmy. Now Davide with a gigantic spin move to free himself. Forward pass now to Kreitz. Kreitz out in front. Rampy couldn't handle it. Kreitz gets it back. He's got 2 to shoot. Takes a rip. It goes wide. Would have counted if it went in. After a close first quarter, Capital has opened it up now. 5 unanswered goals in the second. They lead 10-4. We have a 10-minute halftime period coming, and then more lacrosse for you on the Capital Sports Network. And welcome back to Byrne-Lore Stadium. 10-4, Crusaders out in front of the Wilmington Quakers. Your halftime statistics: Capital 26 shots, Wilmington with 14, 7 saves for Wilmington's goalkeeper Paul Corbel, and 3 saves for Cole Palmby. 21 ground ball pickups for the Crusaders compared to just 4 for Wilmington. 15 face-off wins and 16 opportunities for Christian Crossingham, and the reason he lost 1 was because of a false start. Clearances: Capital 4 for 4. Wilmington 7 for 9. Wilmington had 3 penalties, totaling 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Capital had just a 30-second penalty, as Crossingham wins another face-off for the Crusaders. 7 Capital turnovers. That's a number that they've had problems with, and that's a pretty good number, keeping it down there at 7. And the the Quakers had 6 turnovers. Capital has scored the game's last 5 goals here. In the second quarter, they outscored Wilmington 5-0. Then Danny Davide found the back of the net at the 2:03 mark in the first quarter, so they've actually scored the game's last 6 goals. It was tied at 4-4. Davide started the scoring run, and then Fuller had 1, Kreitz had 1, Hess 1, and O'Callahan had 2. Walton pass picked off by Jackson. Jackson underhands flip forward to Chandler Dawson. And Dawson's across midfield now. Dawson looking for some help, goes back to Jackson, and his pass is offline, and an easy pickup there for Bishop now. Bishop brings it across. He's in the offensive zone, and he'll come back on sides as well. Walton waiting to come on. And Walton does. So the full 6 unit out there now for Cap. Let's see if they can add to this lead against 6 unanswered goals. They led 4-2. Wilmington scored 2 to tie it up. And ever since that 2:17 mark of the first quarter, Wilmington's been unable to score, and the Crusaders have taken control of this game. Walton receives a pass. Flipped over to the left. Cross back to Hess. Wide open look. And Nick Hess has himself a hat trick. How about that little play? So Hess starts the scoring off. 7 unanswered now for the Crusaders. And Wilmington's starting to lose their hope, I think. I mentioned earlier in the first half, whenever Wilmington scored to tie it up, Capital just responded with goal within 30 seconds. And going back to the scoring, Lang scored at the 11:58 mark, and then a minute later, Nick Hess scored. Wilmington then scored at the 8:22 mark, and 30 seconds later, Capital scored. And then those 2 Wilmington goals at the 2:17 mark was their last one, and Capital scored 14 seconds later. So Wilmington really hasn't had any chance to kind of build the lead or build any kind of streak. 1, they're losing all these face-offs, and 2, Capital just keeps responding with quick goals whenever Wilmington does score. And now Wilmington's kind of found themselves in a funk where they're unable to score, and Capital on the other side of that is continuing to just keep possession after all these face-off wins. So they'll get the second unit back in there. Tomsic, Simmons, and Noggle now. Simmons works it towards Noggle. This midfield unit's been pretty quiet here today. Kreitz, O'Callahan, and Rampy on the attack line have combined for 3 goals. Simmons receives a pass, and Noggle waiting at the top of the formation like he likes to. Gets a straight sprint towards the goal and shoots it high, and they beat Corbel high again. He's been having real problems with that shot, especially above his right shoulder. And now Barrett Noggle, the freshman, finds the back of the cage. Noggle now with 4 goals on the season, and Crossingham will go do work again on that faceoff. Fuller and Bonsignori on the wings. They've each scored a goal in today's game, and Coach wanted increased play from his wings on these faceoffs. I don't think he was counting on 2 goals from them. Bonsignori also has an assist. Davide scored a goal from the wing in one of these positions as well. It's pushed back by Crossingham, and Fuller scoops it up. Faces a double team, loses the ball, but should be playable. He keeps it in play, trying to scoop it. cradles it on the near sideline, somehow stays in bounds, and now Fuller has some room. Fuller passes it off to Kreitz, and Capital looks like they're going to slow things down, which allows us to check today's scoreboard. Kreitz not slowing things down anymore, takes a shot and scores, and I felt that coming. So I did not keep my head away from the field. I was going to look down at the computer at the scores. I saw a little maneuver there from Kreitz, and he takes a little spin move and scores. 13-4, Crusaders out in front. Crossingham will do work on the faceoff once more. Thought they might go to Trefethern, but coach using this as a practice situation, really, it is game speed, so can't really mock this in a practice, so he wants his unit to get more work in, not going to the reserves quite yet. 3 quick goals. They scored 3 goals in the first 3 minutes of the second quarter, and they scored 3 in the first 3 minutes of this quarter. Going back to the first quarter, I know they scored 1. They just had 1 in the first 3 minutes of the first quarter. But in the first 3 minutes of quarters, they've scored 7 of their 13 goals. Corbel working it around. Remember, this game started up at 6:30, so this would be the time of the game where the lights are usually becoming a factor, but because we started half an hour earlier, it's probably going to be a while until the lights are a factor. Working around to Reed Delaney, and Wilmington struggling to keep possession. They lose possession. Another turnover, and who else but Tate Stover will be around the ball there. He has been just a great player for this team in his career here. Stover, just a junior, has 1 more year. Lots of good juniors will be leading this team next year. You take a look at all the juniors on the roster. You have Hess. Trefethern's been very good defensively as a midfielder for them. Did some work in the faceoffs as well. Sawyer Mack's been a pretty good defender for them. Jeff Simmons in that second midfield line. Scored some big goals for the Crusaders last year. Connor Diamond, we've seen a little bit in action here today. Tate Stover Jr., as I mentioned. And, of course, Brent Walton. How do you replace the leadership and just the energy that Brent brings to the table? It's going to be a problem for the Crusaders to deal with a couple of years from now. I don't think Coach is looking forward to that. Callahan hits the pipe again, and it's scooped up by Corbel afterwards. You take a look at some of the sophomores on the roster as well that they'll have to replace. Obviously just underclassmen right now, but a very good class of Bonsignori, O'Callahan, Cole Palmby. Capital forces another turnover on the sideline here. Jonathan Mandela, sophomore. Replacing Palmy is going to be the big one. That's why TJ Johnson is on the roster, though, the freshman from Champlin, Minnesota. I know his mom's out there listening. She always interacts with us in the broadcast. Another turnover there for Capital on the pass. And with 9:10 to go, 9:11, excuse me, Wilmington will come back into play. Both teams have had some trouble taking care of the ball here recently. This is Jackson playing almost as a defender right now. He's been all over the field today. Coral couldn't handle his pass, but no one was near him. Johnston across midfield. And good job defensively first by not just lighting him up there by Austin Simmons. And secondly by just playing the ball. That was actually Tate Stover, not Simmons out there. Bonsignori poking away at it. Davide picks it up and whistles blow. We might have a penalty. Get everything sorted out. And it is a penalty against Tate Stover. So I did just praise him for staying out of the penalty box when he could have had that cheap shot hit. Instead just played the ball like you're supposed to. And now he has to go to the penalty box. So the man-up unit goes to work for Wilmington. They have not scored on the man-up unit here today. Capital has just one on the man-up unit. That was O'Callahan back in the second quarter. O'Callahan has 2 goals again in this game, 48 now on the season. Just a phenomenal season for O'Callahan. He had 64 last year. And he might fall a little bit short of that unless he had a couple more big games in him. Goes a little bit wide. I did have an interview question with Coach earlier this season about some of his struggles this season because he hasn't been putting up the big-time games that we've seen from him. Coach did not seem too worried about it and was commenting more about how many assists O'Callahan has this year as well, and that his teammates have robbed him of a few by not finishing. Wilmington no longer a man up as Stover gets back in. They didn't physically send Stover out there as they sent a midfielder back in, obviously, but Stover spot at least is out there. 6 defenders. Oh, and a big-time hit. Tumbling to the ground was Bonsignori. Officials letting him play out there, and now Haig gets shoved off the sideline. Bonsignori got a kind of a cheap shot hit as well, and Coach Olin coming after the official. Bonsignori not pleased about it. We had that cheap shot hit against Calvin back in, I think it was in March, when Carson Paul kind of got laid out at midfield. And then we almost had a near brawl a couple minutes later, and Bonsignori was in the middle of that one too. He kind of laid down a cheap hit. Then Bishop had a hit, he had a hit, and players kept shoving each other. That's when the brawl almost came, and everyone got it out of their systems, and we were able to have a clean game the rest of the game. But it might start getting a little bit dicey now as maybe 2 or 3 hits there didn't need to be had, one on each side, and then that last one on Bonsignori that Coach wanted the whistle for didn't get. 7:07 to go in the quarter. It is a 13-4 game for the Crusaders out in front. And a good chance for us to recheck on that scoreboard as that Baldwin-Wallace game with Mount Union has got underway. That one was a 7:30 start. We'll wait for Wilmington to finish this offensive sequence and then dive into the scores. Jackson spinning, loses the ball, picked out of the air by his own teammate Hine, and then Hine loses it. And here's Danny Davide. Look at the speed from Davide again. Passes it over to OC, a bounce shot, and it's saved by Corwell. Great save as he went down to a knee to knock that thing down. He's made a couple of good saves on O'Callahan. O'Callahan's also hit the post twice and could be having one of those big games we were just talking about if it weren't for some of those things. Stover from the sideline. Jackson didn't see him and somehow was able to keep possession there. A very weak pass as Stover knocked it down, and it bounces its way to Matt Dugan. Dugan going to work now. He's trying to get it inside to Gossard, it looks like. Playing it over to Langendorf in there now. Jake Langendorf actually listed as a goalie on the roster. Pass goes towards Palmby, and Palmby's able to knock that thing down. Captures it before it goes in the goal, and Crusaders get their offensive subs out there. Nick Hess across midfield for the Crusaders now, and they'll be able to kind of relax a little bit now. 5:26 to go. A couple of minutes have gone by. Still no score since the 3 by the Crusaders in the first 3 minutes of the quarter. So we've gone almost 6 minutes without either team scoring to this point. The last goal was at the 11:47 mark, so on the better side of 6.5 minutes now without a goal. Walton. They change that. Spins inside. Pass off to Hess, who has 3 today. What a find to OC, and again a great save by Corbel out in front. And I mentioned he's continuing to rob O'Callahan. That was a great pass to set up O'Callahan out in front, and nothing more that he could have done. Just a great save made by Corbel. Corbel, again, has a 14 goals against average. Some of that's on his defense, but he's been really impressive from what I've seen in the sample today. Corbel started just 3 games this season, entering today, so making, appeared in 3. This is his 3rd start. He's appeared in 4 now. And, again, not hard to see why Coach went that way, as opposed to going with his usual starter, Langendorf. Gossard has it now for Wilmington as they continue to try to break free here. They have not scored since the 2:17 mark of that first quarter. Almost 30 minutes now without a goal. Lang taking a shot, went wide, and closest to it, out of bounds. That's going to be, looks like Chris Hine. Hine bringing it back into play. Hine has scored in this game for Wilmington. Wilmington has had 4 different goal scorers: Lang, Hine, Jackson, and Gossard. Dugan has been involved in the action. He has an assist. He takes a shot wide, closest to it. Wilmington again, Reed Delaney. Delaney just 2 shots in this contest. Came into this game as the team's leading scorer with 18 goals and 11 assists, but has not done anything here today. Lang across the 40. He'll pass it behind the net. Wilmington trying to set something up from behind the net, and they haven't had a lot of success in this department due to Stover's long reach. Stover cutting off angles again, a shot, and another one whistled high. That one was by Lang again. Lang leads the team today. He has 8 shots. 8 of the team's 19. Capital out shooting Wilmington 33-19 at this point. 28-7 still on those ground balls. 19 of 20 in the face-off circle. Been the reason Wilmington has not been able to really sustain any kind of run. Gossard takes a rip. It's wide. Palmby closest to it? No, they're going to give it to Delaney. Looked like Palmby was closer. The official gives Delaney the benefit of the doubt. 2:40 to go. Still trying to get to that scoreboard. We will once the action kind of calms down here. From behind the net again. Pass out in front. Delaney couldn't handle it. Then Dugan couldn't. And now Gossard has to go run it down. Gossard to Jackson. 2 goal scorers involved right now. Jackson has been all over the field today, offensively and defensively. Dugan receives the next pass. He sends it behind the net. Hine. One more pass to Delaney. Bonsignori working on him. Delaney spins off. Spins back towards the goal. Spins a third time onto his right hip. He uses the ball. It's down on the ground, and it's picked up by Bishop. No flag from the official. A clean hit there by Bonsignori. He's done a good job here today. Defensively, has a goal and assist as well. Just a complete day for him. Here's Danny Needham now. He passes it over to OC, and Needham will get off for Walton to come onto the field. Hess crosses midfield, and Walton waiting to cross. He doesn't have to wait. There's no one on the inside of the field in his spot, so he finally comes across, and the Capital goes to work. We'll see if they work clock or if they choose to go directly for the goal. We'll just hold off on the scores until the end of this quarter with just 1:15 left to go. Again, we're keeping our eye on that men's game between Mount Union and Baldwin Wallace. The women's game as well, pretty big for those 2 teams. How about that shot from OC? Just backing away from the goal, and he gets Brent a handshake as Brendan O'Callahan has a hat trick. He's one shy of 50 now on the season. 49 and 66 points for the sophomore. Again, he scored 64 last year, and he very well could catch that. He's pretty much going to need a hat trick in every game, but he's got 1 against Muskingum, 1 against Mount Union, 1 Otterbein, and then hopefully some tournament games as well to get to that 64. 1:03 to go. Capital's up by 10 now. They've scored 10 unanswered goals. 4 in the third quarter without a Wilmington answer. 5 in the second. Crossingham wins a faceoff. Pass to Kreitz. Kreitz over to Rampy now. Rampy back to OC now. OC, Rampy, and Kreitz, the 3 attackers. Paul out there as well as Hess and Walton. They have 44 seconds to work with, and Walton telling Paul to go the other way with it. He was going to pass it to Walton. Instead, they pass it to OC. He brings it into the end zone and just slows things down. 10 saves made today in net for Corbel. He's had quite a workout, and he cannot stop that one from Kreitz. Kreitz has himself a hat trick now. All 3 scratch that Two of the three attackers have hat tricks now. Nick Hess also has one. He's a midfielder, though. Ryan Rampy has not been involved in the scoring at all today. He has not taken a shot. But O'Callahan has 3 and 13 shots. Ted Kreitz now with 3 goals and 2 assists. He has the most points on the day for anybody. Walton with a goal and an assist as well. But it's really been the Ted Kreitz and Brendan O'Callahan show. Kreitz and O'Callahan have combined for the last 3 goals for the Crusaders as well. They lead 15-4. Crossingham wins another faceoff. He, again, has not lost a faceoff. The only faceoff he did lose was because of a false start. Sawyer Mack gets hit. He loses it. Wilmington has big-time numbers out in front, and Palmy's unable to stop that one from Delaney. He had no chance. It was one-on-one in front of the cage. And Delaney gets a huge high-percentage look. That was with 1.2 seconds left, meanwhile. So Wilmington steals one, and that's their first goal since the 2:17 mark of the first quarter, over 30 minutes. And it looks like a penalty is going to be called as well. It looks like it's going to be called against Sawyer Mack, who is the one that was double-teamed there. So with 1 second left, Wilmington will just scoop the ball up, and then they'll start the fourth quarter on the man advantage without a faceoff, which is huge for them considering the 20 faceoff losses they have today. That's not an exaggeration. 21-1 in terms of the faceoffs here today. Big Green, the score is 15-5, and teams are subbing on and off right now. The last second will run off, and we'll step away as fourth quarter action is coming. Capital leads 15-5. They've scored 5 in each quarter and have themselves a comfortable 10-goal lead. We'll also have an OAC score update as well as your update from the women's game just after this. Welcome back to Burn Lore. 15-5. Capitals out in front, and they're going to start a man down as a reminder here because of that penalty by Mack there in the last second. Before that Wilmington goal by Delaney. And our whistle-happy officials will blow it again as it looks like Wilmington forgot they had to bring the ball into play. And they will at the 45-yard line as usual. This is Hine with it. Hine passes it over to his teammate Dugan. I promised some scores, so let's get those scores your way. First, in the women's lacrosse game, Capital 13, Wilmington 1. That's a good score to see. Capital looks like they're going to be well on their way to go 4-0 in the women's season, and they have a huge matchup with Mount Union here on Saturday. That'll be a real fun one and probably determine the regular season conference winner. As a low shot is scooped up by Cole, and Palmy just keeps it momentarily. Now makes the pass to Trefethern. Couldn't handle it. Bonsignori's wide open ahead of Trefethern. He gets it to him. And numbers for the Crusaders. Bonsignori, a quick pass to Kreitz. Bonsignori gets leveled again. And he's calling to the official. He's been hit 3 or 4 times now. Monsignori might get himself a hit in. Look at him go to the bench here, and he's just looking to his teammates like, what is going on out there? Meanwhile, it looks like Kreitz is coming onto the field as a midfielder. And they had Hess out there as an attacker. Interesting alignment. Walton receives the pass from Carson Paul. Walton now juking a couple moves to his left. Kreitz, wide open shot. And again, Corbel just hung out to dry. He had no chance on that one. Ted Kreitz with his 4th goal now. He has 4 goals and 2 assists. Definitely been the player of the match to this point. He's scored 3 of the last 4 for the Crusaders, meanwhile. He scored, looks like 1 goal in the second, and the rest of his goals have been here in the second half. Crossingham still taking the face-off for the Crusaders. Cole Palmy, meanwhile, is being benched, and TJ Johnson will come in. Johnson, the future goalkeeper here for the Crusaders, at least as the way the roster is currently set up. He is the freshman, Palmy is sophomore, so still will be backing up Palmy for a couple years here, and then it should be his show. He's a freshman from Champlain, Minnesota. I know his mom's out there watching, so she'll be happy to see him in the game. 16-5, Crusaders out in front. Hess back in the midfield. It looks like Kreitz was just getting a water break there, so he's back in there as the attacker. Kreitz in front to OC. He scores. And Kreitz will get another assist. So he now has 4 goals and 3 assists. And O'Callahan has scored number 50 on the year. Unbelievable season that O'Callahan has had. Some more of those scores on the women's side. It looks like it's a 1-1 tie right now between Baldwin Wallace and Mount Union. That one just got underway. Ohio Northern, I believe, is winning 2-0 here. Actually, they're trailing 2-0 to Otterbein. That one just got underway as well. Really hasn't, though. Here we go. 9-2 is the score. The scoreboard on the live stats for Otterbein a little bit janky there. It looks like they've scored 9 as a team, and Ohio Northern has 2. And quickly, Wilmington down there on Bernlor's field has scored. Looks like it was, from the celebrations, Garrick Todd, a senior defender, is what he's listed on the roster, but he's playing attack right now. And he's excited for Garrick. That is his first goal of the season, so good reason for him to be excited. Checking on that John Carroll game on the women's side of things against Muskingum. They lead 8-6, a very close game actually there. So it looks like Mount Union and Baldwin Wallace will be battling in a close game. And then Capital and Otterbein pretty much winners at this point. And John Carroll and Muskingum in a tight game there on the women's side. Still have to play in the Capital game when they're up 13-1 on Wilmington. So that will probably have a running clock. Behind the net with it now, we have a bunch of substitutions to get to, so why don't we get to some of those? It looks like Jordan Goosh is in there as an attacker. Kreitz is still out there with Rampy, though, so just OC getting pulled for Goosh there. In the midfield unit, we have Jordan Fuller playing as an offensive player for the first time here today. He's been playing on the wing on faceoffs. Tomsic and Noggle out there with him as well, and a shot from Kreitz goes wide. Goosh was standing behind the goal. He's probably closest to it, but Rampy was also giving chase. Still got 12 minutes to go here. Stover and Bishop and Mack, still 3 defenders for the Crusaders. Noggle has scored today. Why not 2 for him? Passes it to Rampy out in front. Ted Kreitz. Unbelievable. Another one for Ted Kreitz. He has 5 goals now. 3 assists. That's a casual 8-point night for Ted Kreitz. Kreitz just a sophomore. Good to see that he'll be around for quite a while here. He's had a real breakout season for the Crusaders, and Kreitz comes to the sideline now. He is replaced by number 36, Grant Galea, a freshman from Canfield, Ohio. And in the face-off circle, looks like we have a new player. I think it's John Allen. Make that Grayson Garver-Geller, the freshman. Crossingham also a freshman, so those two both brought in for these face-offs. Crossingham won the job. And Grayson Geller looked towards Needham and then flipped it that way. And big stick here from Wegmiller. He'll pick it up. Wegmiller has Grayson Geller now. And Grayson Garver-Geller, Triple G we're going to call him, passes it forward to Needham. Needham to Rampy, who is still yet to shoot in this game. He's been out there as the attacker all day. Doesn't have a shot still. And they're trying to get their subs back on as Simon comes across. And it looks like Josh Collier will be coming on as well for the first time today. Collier in the midfield. Receives the pass from Simon. Simon, Collier, and Simmons worked as a midfield unit for part of the season last year. And they're reunited here. 10:56 to go, an 18-6 lead for the Crusaders. Looked up at the scoreboard, saw the 18, and didn't think it was right for a second, but it is. Capital scored 24 earlier this season against Bethany. They scored 22 against Calvin. They scored 20 against Franciscan and 20 against La Roche. So they've been up here quite a bit. And they actually have a chance to break that here. Simmons working it over. And they'll continue to pass it around. And last game these two met last year, it was a 14-9 game. Capital won. But it was a very close game throughout. The second quarter was the big difference. Wilmington was up 3-2 after 1. Capital scored 5 in the second to take a 5-1 lead. And then it was 4-2 Capital in the third, 3-3 overall in the fourth, and then a 14-9 final score. Not the case here today. It's 18-6. Capital has succeeded in tripling up their opponent. Taking a look at Ted Kreitz and some of the games he's had this season. The most points he's had this year was against Calvin, in which he had 5 goals and 2 assists as Wilmington gets back on the board again. Looked like Reed Delaney. That'll be his second. And again, he's the team's leading scorer coming into this contest. Delaney now with a 20-goal season himself, so he reaches a milestone here. Again, for Kreitz, he had 7 goals in that Calvin game in 2016, so that one was back in March 26th. Let's check last year if he's had a game higher than 8. I believe he's going to set himself a new career high here today. Needham sends it towards the goal. There's no one in the goal. Fortunately, Jake Haig was there defensively. Haig checking into the game for the first time today. Sawyer Mack still out there. He receives a pass. Kreitz had a game where he had 6 points against Franciscan last year. So setting a new career high with 8 points here today. 5 goals, 3 assists, 9 shots. O'Callahan had 4 goals on 14 shots. And Nick Hess also had that hat trick with 3 goals. And then a couple other Crusaders, Fuller, Davide, Bonsignori, Paul, and Noggle, as well as Walton, all scoring 1. Walton with 2 assists today, and Bonsignori had an assist as well. So lots of big points, and you'd expect that in such a wide-scoring game. We haven't seen anything from Jonathan Mundell tonight. I don't see him down there in uniform, so that could explain why we saw a little bit of shakeups in the midfield line. That's why Rampy potentially got the start here. And then they move Walton to the midfield to fill that spot. So Mundell's been a key player for the Crusaders this season. He has 8 goals, 4 assists, which is good for 7th on the team in terms of total points. Wilmington got a steal defensively here. And they will go to work on offense with 8:15 left to go in this one. Wilmington trying to get their subs onto the field. Wegmiller playing defensively right now for the Crusaders. A timeout, I think, on the sideline. That is the case. Wilmington will call a timeout, get their subs in. 8:03 to go. More to come on the Capital Sports Network. Welcome back. 8:03 to go. As I mentioned, Capitals up 18-7. Can finally pass those scores along on the men's side. Baldwin Wallace right now blanking Mount Union. They have been a great defensive team all season, so shouldn't be so surprised, I guess. But they lead Mount Union 4-0 in the second quarter there, so keep an eye on that one, as Baldwin Wallace would take over first place in the conference. Ohio Northern trailing Otterbein 9-3 at half. And Muskingum down 11-2 to John Carroll. So the Otterbein game, this one, and that John Carroll one, pretty much in hand at this point. Keep an eye on that Baldwin Wallace Mount Union game. Capital, of course, traveling to Mount Union this weekend. Those will be big ones on both the men's and women's side. The women's side, both teams will likely be undefeated. That one shot wide by Wilmington. To hit a Capital player on the way to the net. And Delaney will bring it back in. So keep an eye on that Baldwin Wallace game. Capital here, obviously, the men will have to win that game against Mount Union if they want any chance of being towards the top of this conference. At the end of the season, already with 2 losses in conference play, they can knock Mount Union down to 2 losses if Baldwin Wallace gets a win this weekend. But tough to find 2 more losses on Baldwin Wallace's schedule when they play John Carroll and Wilmington, as well as Ohio Northern after this Mount Union game. They could very well run the table. And Capital might be thinking a 2 seed at best at this point. They'll have to travel to Otterbein on Wednesday as well. So 2 real tough games coming up for the Crusaders. Simon makes a nice catch on that one. And he'll work it back up to the top of this field now. Collier behind the net to Rampy as they work it around. Counterclockwise again. Simon spinning it the other way. Goosh passes it over, and this is Rampy. Still can't believe Rampy hasn't taken a shot in this game. He is credited with 1 assist now as Simon lets one rip. It goes wide. 6:16 to go. Rampy brings it back into play. Goosh back to Collier. Like to see Rampy get on the board here. He's been out here all night, doing a nice job for the Crusaders this season. Allen over towards Goosh. Rampy cutting towards the goal, and the pass goes over his head. Stays on the field of play, and then Rampy stepped out of bounds trying to save it. So 5:52 to go, and the Crusaders will have to get their defense out there. Looks like Drew Orr getting some playing time here in the midfield, as well as Jay Weemhoff, a freshman from Sugar Falls, Ohio. It looks like Rampy might be coming off as well for a sub. Nope, he stayed. So we'll keep an eye on that situation, of course. Griffin Stryker, a long stick midi in there. Great name as well in there for the Crusaders. And Sawyer Mack still out there as well. Looks like Skylar Link, a sophomore defender from Hilliard, is in as well. Loose ball, and Sawyer Mack picks it up. Capital destroying the battle in ground ball pickups today, 38-9. Some standouts there. Fuller has 8, Davide 6, Crossingham and Bonsignori each with 4, and a couple of players with 2 and 1 apiece. Looks like Weemhoff has it, and he'll come off for a substitution. Goosh has it. Scratch, that was actually Galea with it. He brings it over behind the net. A flag is down as John Allen executes a pass. Ben Unkaffer, a freshman from Toledo, in there. Rampy works it around to Andrew Klatt, a freshman, another one from Toledo. Different high schools, I just checked. And a big-time hit, and another flag, and this one on the midfield throws one as well, just for good measure. 3 flags down there on the field. 4:04 remain in this one, and it looks like a new goalkeeper will be checking in for the Crusaders as well, as it's Ryan Chamberlain, the junior, making his track out there to the goal. He's from Lebanon, Ohio. And I believe Wilmington will be 2 men down here. Potentially 3. There's just 3 defenders on the field right now for the Quakers. And it'll just be 2 as they're trying to figure out the 4th defender to get on the field. Looks like Mike Smith comes out there. That is not a generic name I made up. His name is Mike Smith. Mike, a midfield freshman from Westlake, Ohio. So down by 2 men here. This will be a tough task for Wilmington. And the 6 out there for the Crusaders looks like Collier, Simon, Allen, Goosh, Galea, and Rampy. Rampy has been amazing on these man-up situations this season. See if they go him. Allen takes a rip. Well, that was pretty easy. Connor Simon scores. Allen took a couple of passes. He passed it over to Collier, and then finishing that one off is Connor Simon. And he made that look really simple. 2 quick passes. They switch sides on the wings, and Simon buries it. Collier gets the assist for Simon. It's his first goal of the season. So we've seen a first goal on the year for now him as well as Bonsignori. Capital leads 19-7. 3:54 to go. And Triple G, as I call him now, Grayson Garver-Geller, wins the faceoff for the Crusaders. Gives it over to Ryan Rampy, and Capital goes back to work on offense. Great job by Garver-Geller winning that faceoff. Capital 25-2 in terms of faceoffs. Make it 26-2. That was not updated yet. 39 ground balls to 9 ground balls in favor of Capital. They've outshot Wilmington 41-25. 10 saves for Wilmington's keeper Corbel, and the Capital Crusaders have combined for 8 saves. 13 turnovers apiece. That's your stat update. Capital working it around again. Their next 2 are the big ones. They've got one at Mount Union, which turned out to be a much bigger game than we might have been anticipating. Mount Union in the preseason poll was projected to finish 5th in the conference. It was supposed to be Otterbein 1, Capital 2, Baldwin Wallace 3. Jordan Goosh, top shelf. Easy goal there. Goosh with his 8th on the season, and Capital continues to just pour it on. 20-7. Garver-Geller will go back to work. Jay Weemhoff out there, as well as Matthew St. Clair. St. Clair with the long stick out there on the top of the screen at the 50-yard line. Looks like Unkaffer got credit for the assist as well. That's his 2nd assist on the year. Up in the air, and a ground ball pickup for Matthew St. Clair. St. Clair, a junior from Columbus, Went to Hilliard-Davidson High School. Popped up in the air and it's still loose. And a big-time hit. And a resulting penalty coming on that hit there from Jay Weemhoff. As he sends a Wilmington player to the ground. Weemhoff will come to the box. And Coach Olin saying, come on, we don't need that. But he's just trying to make a play there for his team. 2:23 to go. You can see the big hit there on the replay. Nice to have the replay monitor up and running here at the field. Couple of subs for the Crusaders again. Connor Rettermanis in there defensively. Looks like Skylar Link's still in there. Drew Orr, Griffin Stryker, and one more player I can't get the number of. I believe it's Austin Simmons. Keeping an eye on him. It is Austin Simmons. Nice eye by me. Can only see half his number. And serving the penalty will be Weemhoff, and then Weemhoff replaced by St. Clair in the box after the hit. 2:23 to go. It's 20-7 Capital out in front. They continue to pass this thing around behind the net. Another pass goes over to Jordan Lang. Lang, a pass. Chamberlain got a piece of it. It goes out of bounds. It'll stay with Wilmington. 2:05 and a shot that goes wide. Behind the net, and Capital will get to keep possession because, I guess, take over possession. As Connor Rettermanis was there. Rettermanis brings in a play to Chamberlain. A couple of quick passes for the Crusaders. Trying to get across midfield. They do. That is Matt Rohde. And Rohde is called for being offsides, it looks like. That's a kind of a confusing call. The official, on the bench audibly said there, what? After that call. There's a flag down on the field. 1:35 on the clock. As we are just in housekeeping mode right now. Capital trying to make it through this last minute without any kind of major injury or anything like that. 1:21 to go. Pass out in front, and it beats Chamberlain. How about that shot from Matt Dugan? Dugan gets his first on the day. Delaney with 2 for Wilmington. Gossard had 1, Jackson 1, Hine 1, Lang 1, and Garrett Todd scored 1 as well. His first of the season. So the third player for counting both teams there to score his first of the year. 1:17 to go now. And it is a 20-8 lead for the Crusaders. Checking in on the Baldwin Wallace game one more time with Mount Union. And it is a 6-0 lead for Baldwin Wallace. How about that at halftime? Shutting out Mount Union. Keep an eye on that one after our broadcast ends here tonight. That is an interesting score. 1:17 to go, and Garver Geller will give another face-off a try, pushes it back, and it is won by James Weemhoff. And Weemhoff around the corner, and he'll send it over to, actually keeps it. Sends it behind the net. And the Capital can just run around and finish the clock here to this at this point. 45 seconds to go. The Crusaders are going to get the win here tonight. They're going to move to 10-4 in overall. They're going to move to 2-2 in conference play. Just 6-3 at home this year. I think that's a little disappointing. 2-1 at home in conference play after the loss to Baldwin Wallace, who's looking like the best team right now in the OAC. Going to be a tough matchup should those teams face off in the OAC tournament. 15 seconds to go. A note about that is that we will have the OAC tournament be 4 teams this season. Even though there's 8 teams, next year there's going to be 9 with Heidelberg joining the conference. They're already in the OAC, obviously, but there'll be getting their first year of varsity athletics under their belt here at the men's lacrosse level. Chamberlain with a great save, and the horn sounds. Capital with the win. They're going to move to 2-2 in conference play, and again, a huge step into getting back into the OAC tournament discussion. They're going to be in a dogfight right now with John Carroll, Otterbein, Mount Union, and Baldwin Wallace to see which of those which of those 5 teams, one of those teams is going to be the one left out. So it'll be interesting to see who that is. And the big game Saturday between Capital and Mount Union could decide that last spot. John Carroll probably on the bubble as well. And then that Otterbein game on Wednesday could determine if Capital is out of the tournament or they get a bye in the first, or excuse me, a home game in the first round. So we'll have to keep an eye on the tournament situation. And then, of course, they'll be home for senior night a week from Saturday against Muskingum, and a chance to obviously probably secure a final spot in the OAC tournament at that point, and we'll see if they can finish things off. That'll about do it from Bernlohr Stadium. A good win for the Crusaders. Let's hope they can keep that momentum going. Join us Saturday as well. We'll have the broadcast of the women's game against Mount Union. Both teams will come in undefeated, so it should be a real fun day here at Bernlohr on Saturday. I will see you guys later. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to listen to this broadcast. Enjoy this Crusaders victory with me from Bernlohr Stadium on the Capital Sports Network.